2, 1. Welcome to another edition of Real Estate Success. I'm your host and marketing trainer, Mo. Today we have a very special guest, Michael Hellickson from Club Wealth. Michael, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm fantastic, Mo. Thanks for having me on, man. It's an honor.
I appreciate it, man. So for our listeners who are going to be picking this up, tell us a little bit about yourself and Club Wealth and what you guys do.
So I sold real estate for just over 20 years, was consistently listing and selling over 100 homes a month. So for a while, I was number one agent in the country. I felt pretty good. And in about 2001, I started coaching other agents and retired selling real estate officially in 2011. And now we're just full-time coaching. That's what we do. And that's Club Wealth is the organization that we do our coaching through. We've got a bunch of different coaches. I'm one of the coaches. We break it up into tiers. Tier 1 is making $0 to $150,000 in gross commission income. Tier 2 is $150,000 to $500,000. Tier 3 is $500,000 to $1 million, and Tier 4 is $1 million and up. I'm blessed. I get to coach a lot of the Tier 4 agents, but we get to talk about all the different tiers. So that's
Excellent. Great. So you mentioned you're one of the top agents in the nation, and that's why I wanted to, get you locked down for a couple of minutes here so that you can share your 3 keys to real estate success. I mean, to be selling 100 plus homes a month, I'm sure that took a lot of time for you to develop the strategies and the keys to identify what worked. And so, in our time today, I'd like to just share 3 of those keys so that the folks listening can eliminate and not waste time on what doesn't work, because you've done it. You work with successful agents who are doing it today, and I want to get your input on your 3 keys for real estate success. So let's just start with the first one. Tell me, what do you think is the number one key or one of the number one keys to real estate success?
Well, no matter what, regardless of what tier you're in, the number one thing that you have to do on a daily basis, whether you're personally doing it or you have it automated in some fashion, number one thing that has to happen in any business, especially real estate, is lead generation. Period. End of story. You can deliver the best service in the world, and if you don't have customers to serve, it's not going to matter. So you got to be lead generating every single day. And if you, like most agents, what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll lead generate, and they get a bunch of business happening, and then they stop lead generating so they can focus on taking care of that business. They're writing transactions, they're handling the transaction, and then all of a sudden they get all this stuff closed and they realize, oh my gosh, I made all this money, but I got nothing in the pipeline because I stopped lead generating. So lead generation is by far number one.
So, and you mentioned a good point. A lot of agents, they jump into it and they get the wheels turning, and the next thing you know, like you said, you got a lot of business, and then the well is dry. So when you say lead generation, what's one lead generation tool or mechanism that you would recommend the agents stay consistently plugged into so that they don't have a well that runs dry?
Well, it really depends on what tier they're in. If I'm a newer agent, if I'm in that tier 1 and I'm making somewhere south of $150,000 a year in gross commission income, I probably don't have money to go out and buy leads just yet. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on things that I can bring in business. Now, some people love cold calling and expireds and FSBOs and all that kind of stuff, and some people don't. I'll tell you something that really, really works well if people do it at a high level, forgetting about obviously your sphere of influence and all that stuff, that's the one thing that everybody has to be doing no matter what. But if you're looking for something other than the obvious, something that's not quite so obvious that people are having a ton of success with is open houses. Believe it or not, for buyers and for sellers, we've got clients just killing it with open houses. And I'm talking 50 to 100 people at an open house. They're doing an average of 1 or more transactions, closed transactions per open house they hold. It's insane. I've got one client down in California, David Serpa, in Temecula, California. In his second year as a real estate agent, did $650,000 in GCI, and most of that came from open houses.
Wow. So why are agents holding open houses? Is it, just not having that concept? Is it, too tired? Be honest with me, Michael.
I think the reason most agents don't hold open houses is because they think they're a waste of time, because the last time they held an open house, it wasn't successful. But the reason why it wasn't successful is because they have no clue what they're doing. They don't know how to hold an open house properly. That's like saying, well, I went into real estate and I wasn't instantly successful. It's because you didn't know what you were doing. If you know what to do and you follow the system works. Just got to follow it. Just for example, a lot of agents will go out, they're going to hold an open house. So they'll put up 3 signs, and they think that, they get 3 or 4 people come through and they think, well, this was a waste of time. Well, yeah, if I'm going to go sit somewhere for 3 hours, I'm going to darn well make sure that I drive as much traffic as I could possibly drive to that open house. When I do that, now I've got to learn, how do I convert at that open house? How do I go from you came through the door to now you're a client, or now you're at least open to being a client. Now you're at least a warm lead that I can communicate with. And people don't know how to do that. And so, there's all this stuff you got to learn. But once you get it, oh my gosh, they're hugely profitable.
I mean, there are a number of keys to real estate success. So by far, the 3 that we discussed today, that's not it. And open houses, you said, is awesome because you invest a lot of time to get people all in one place to get connected with you on your real estate business. So before we transition to the next key, with an open house, what's the one thing that an agent should be looking to get out of an open house? Is it just the contact information? Are they trying to, get somebody scheduled for a listing appointment, or buyers, sit down? What's that number one thing that you're looking for at open houses?
Okay, so think about any kind of lead generation I do. My first goal of any lead generation I do is to get voice to voice with somebody. My next goal is to get face to face with somebody. So if I'm at an open house, I'm already face to face with people. So now I want to get a follow. If they're not going to write up that house, and they're probably not going to write up that house, and that's okay. So what is my next goal? I have one goal and one goal only, and it's not getting their contact info. Yes, it's important to get their contact info, but that's not the goal. The goal here is get an appointment. If I can get an appointment with them to go show them other homes, game over. Now I've got over an 80% chance that person's going to do business with me, whether it's today or 6 months down the road. If I can set that appointment, there's a better than 80% chance that they'll do business with me.
Yeah. So really just pulling out your calendar, which you should already have available, right? I mean, smartphones, laptops, you should be equipped at an open house, and scheduling the time to sit down with them.
I'll take it a step further there, Mo.
Okay.
And it's great to have your calendar on your phone and all that, but I'll take it a step further, and I'd say have it printed out on paper because it's faster. The last thing I want is to be fumbling for an appointment time and have them say, oh, well, just give us a call. No. No. I want my paper calendar right in front of me, and so I do keep all my calendar electronically. So I'm gonna transcribe this into my electronic calendar, but I want to be able to instantly say, "Bam! I got tomorrow night at 2:00. Is 2 or 4 o'clock better for you?" Done.
I love that. That's a Club Wealth, ninja secret right there. I mean, so many people don't understand the difference between what you just said. That millisecond, those couple of seconds from pulling this out, having your calendar available eliminates that time for them to think, yes, no, etc. You got your paper calendar. Let's go ahead and lock it down for 2:00, 4:00, etc. So I love that. One quick tip on how people can drive traffic to open houses, because, you got signs, you got postcards, you got phone calls, text messages, all kind of robo blasts and that kind of stuff. But what's one way that you suggest people drive traffic to open houses?
We actually have a 79-point checklist on how to pull off a massive open house. And so it's got all kinds of stuff on it. But if I could only do one thing, if there was literally only one thing I could ever do to drive traffic to an open house, it would be signs. And I'm not talking about 3 or 4 signs. I'm putting 60 to 75 signs out per open house. And some people, I get this all the time, people say, oh, well, we can't put open house signs in our area because, the city takes them. Fine, get cheaper open house signs and let them take them. Any problem I can write a check for isn't a problem, it's an expense. So if I know they're going to take my signs, and I'm saying instead of buying A boards, maybe I'll buy the little snipe signs, right? Like like when people are running for office, it's got a stake and a couple of pieces of wood, and it's got the paper sign on it. I might be into that whole shebang for $250 per sign. So if I go out and put 100 of those out there, that's That's $250. So for $250, now here's the crazy thing. I'm going to get about 0.75 people per sign to my open house. So if I put 60 signs up for an open house, or let's say I put 100 up, I'm looking at probably 75 people I'm going to get to that open house, assuming it's sited in the right location. Doesn't matter what price it is, doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside. If I'm in the right location so I can get good traffic and I've got enough signs out there, I'm going to get ridiculous traffic for that open house. Not to mention the 60 other things you can do to drive traffic to an open house.
Absolutely. Cool.
And here's signs, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, folks have to look at expenses like that as a marketing expense. You do postcards, or you may do flyers, or you may do TV ads, radio, etc. Everybody that comes into contact with your advertising is not going to buy. So you have to look at it as not just an expense, but an investment. Like you just said, you're going to get a return on the money that you're putting into those signs. So the more signs you put out, the bigger the return you get. You just need to be there and not have your bucket, but have your calendar printed and ready to score an appointment. So
that's right. That's
excellent stuff. All right. So let's jump into the second key to success that you want to share with us today.
Okay, so obviously, and regardless of what lead source you use, there's literally thousands of ways to generate leads. So regardless of how you generated that lead, the next thing is absolutely mission critical, and it's the single biggest place most agents fail. Period, end of story. This is where 90% of the real estate agents out there drop the ball, and that's on follow-up. You have to follow up. The fortune, as they say, really is in the follow-up. When I was listing and selling over 100 homes a month, here's how I did it. I made 115 to 125 follow-up calls per day. Every single day in between appointments. That was 4 days a week. I was working 12 days a month, so that was 4 days a week, and I would do it on my way in between appointments. So you start doing the math on that, that's a lot of follow-up calls. And it's hard to make that many phone calls from your car driving in between appointments. It's work. I mean, I'm not going to lie, it's hard. But it was worth it. So
Club wealth.
I mean, Michael, let me ask you this: I'm sorry, Mo. Mo, if I said, hey, listen, I'm going to show you how to make 7 figures in net income every single year, and you're going to do it working 12 days a month, and all you got to do is make 115 to 125 follow-up calls per day. Would you do it?
Let me think. I'll get back to you on that one, Michael. Heck yeah!
It really is that simple.
It is. I agree. You have guys that are like, what do you have to think about? The proof is in the pudding.
It's funny because people will tell me, I get, and listen, I know there's agents watching this that are saying, look, I don't want to make 7 figures a year. Okay, fine. Then cut the numbers back. So instead of working, because I was working a lot of hours, working 14 to 16 hours a day during those 4 days a week, right? Maybe you don't want to be like the fireman kind of schedule, right? That's what I called it, my fireman schedule, right? So maybe you don't want to have that kind of schedule and you just want to make $150,000, $200,000 a year. Okay, fine. You don't need to make 115 to 125 follow-up calls per day, but make 10 or 20 at the very least. And if you make 10 or 20, if you want to make $250,000 a year, all you got to do really is make 20 follow-up calls per day. Done. End of story.
Yep. You're absolutely right. I mean, just pure statistical numbers, you will net the results that you talked about just by following up and asking the right questions and building a relationship. Question for you before we move into the third piece. We talked about lead generation and we talked about follow-up. One question that I posted on social media either recently was, is it more important to have a large number of leads, or does the size of your database really matter? And the reason I asked that question, it boils down to exactly what you said. No matter how big your database is, whether you have 100 or 100,000, if you're not consistently following up, it doesn't matter. And so my question to you is, why don't agents really get the fact that it's not about necessarily how big their database is or how many leads that they have? It's about the follow-up and consistently touching base. What's the disconnect that you've seen with agents on that concept?
It's super simple. And you're right, there's a huge disconnect. And essentially, here's where the disconnect is. They want to be able to write a check and get business. That's really what it comes down to. And they're really good at writing the check, and they're really good at getting those leads coming in. And there's tons. I mean, I could rattle off 100 lead sources that'll give you more leads than you can handle right now. Totally easy, not hard. Just write a check. The problem is follow-up requires effort. And when we talk about follow-up, I'm not talking about email drip. And don't get me wrong, email drip campaigns are important, but it's not enough. You've got to pick up the phone. This is a people business. You got to connect with people. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to hire somebody to do my social media. Good luck with that. I mean, throw that money away. Go for it. I mean, you have to engage people. I don't hire somebody else. Like, I've got Lizzie, who's my marketing director, right? Lizzie does a fantastic job of helping me create, my content and helping me get videos arranged and blog posts and all this stuff. But she's not the one that has to put her name to it when it's done. I do. And when it comes to my social media, when I'm on Facebook, it's me. Nobody responds for me with my name. I respond. And that's where that disconnect is, because people want to hire everything out. And at some point, folks, you just got to work.
Got to put in the effort. So, all right. So that lets us move into our third step. What is your third key to real estate success on today's call? All
right. So we got number 1 is lead generation. Number 2 is lead follow-up. And number 3, super simple, lead conversion. I've generated all these leads. I've followed up with all these leads. Now I've got to convert them into an actual client. And let me tell you, there is a huge disconnect here. And the number one reason why is people are afraid to ask for the business. I was on a post here recently, and Mo, you and I belong to a ton of the same groups, and there's some awesome groups on Facebook and some great people organizing those and taking care of them. I was on one, I think you might have been in the thread the other day, where I was talking about ABC, always be closing, and somebody was totally offended by that, and they're saying, well, it's a contribution environment now. You got to come from contribution. Yes, I get that. Coming from contribution, that's part of lead generation. Now we got to get into lead conversion, and lead conversion is not coming from contribution. You got to ask for the sale. You have to actually ask for the sale. And people, they don't know how to do that. And so we'll teach them a simple closing line. Like, I'll give you an example. If I'm at a showing appointment with a buyer, I might ask them a question like, first of all, most agents don't ask them a question. They just say, well, do you want to go see this other one or whatever? They never ask for the business at the house. Well, at the house, I'm going to say to them, I'm going to say, hey, Mo, at what price would this be a fantastic deal for you?
Absolutely. That's different.
And you're going to give me a number, right? And I'm going to say, fine. If you give me a number that's 50% of what it's listed at, awesome. Let's write it up for that. And I'm going to get you writing something on paper. And I don't care if you get blown out of the water. It's an educational process. Right now, I got to get you putting pen to paper. So, if I'm in a listing appointment, this one kills me right here. You want the best closing line ever?
Absolutely.
Okay. Notice the NLP techniques in this one. This is ninja. I've used it literally on thousands and thousands of listing appointments, and I've taken literally thousands of listings using this one closing line. Here it is. Watch carefully. You got to look right at me when I'm doing this.
All right.
Mo, are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork?
A ton of them.
It works every time. I was just talking to Jesse Zagorski this morning. Jesse's been using that line for 6 years. He's like, dude, it works every time. Every time.
Just like, are there any other questions? They're like, no, there's not. No. Let's go.
And what's really funny is they'll laugh when you do it, because they know what you're doing to them. They totally get it. And they'll laugh. They have a good time with it. And it's a great low-key way to – and by the way, sometimes they'll have an objection. And here's another place that agents – this is probably the second biggest place that agents drop the ball in conversion, because once in a while the person will give you an objection. And so what happens is they either don't know how to resolve the concern, or they do a good job of resolving the concern and they forget to come back and ask for the business again. And so what I'll do, you'll throw a concern out to me and I'll say, I'll resolve the concern. I'll resolve the concern, and then I'll come right back and I'll say, so Mo, are there any other questions before we get started on the paperwork? I had a guy do this to me 12 times in one listing appointment. That was my record. 12 times in one listing appointment, this guy hit me at that. I literally, every single time I came back, I'd resolve the concern, and I came back and I asked the exact same question every time, 12 times, and I got the listing.
Wow. 12 times. And I love the fact that you mentioned 12 times, because that listing, I mean, you no matter what it was worth asking that question 12 times. You could have made 5,000, 10,000. There you go. 12, asking the question 12 times.
So wait, let's just do the math on this, right? Okay, so hold on. 6,000 divided by 12. So that was $500 I got paid for every single time I went back and asked him that question again. How many times would you ask that question?
I'd say, sir, can I answer, at least 10 more objections before we finally close to the paperwork? So now that a lot of agents just don't get it. And that's why I wanted to bring you on to today's call, because there are definitely strategies and tips that you are teaching real estate agents at Club Wealth that other agents need to know about. So, we talked about lead generation. We talked about follow-up, and we talked about converting people that you've generated into your pool to actual clients by asking for the business. So, I know our time is short today, and I want to give you the opportunity to let folks know about whatever else that there is at Club Wealth that people can get connected to. Coaching programs, free live training events that you guys are doing. Let us know how people can get connected.
We got a ton of all that stuff. I mean, definitely go to our website, check out clubwealth.com. It's that right there, Club Wealth, and then just .com, super easy. But yeah, we do live events. If you guys are wanting us to come out and do an event at your office, a lot of times, depending on where you're at and what's going on, a lot of times we can accommodate that. If we can get enough people in the room, we'll come out and do a live event for you. Another thing that we do is we'll do a strategy session. If you just literally, and it's funny because there's a lot of times people think strategy session or free coaching call, they think sales pitch, and that's just not what we do. The bottom line is we will literally take the time and we'll give you either myself or one of our other coaches, depending on your production level. We'll put you at the right coach, and we'll do a free coaching call for you. And we call it a strategy session, and we'll spend 55 minutes with you, really diving deep on your business and figuring out where you're at, where you're trying to go, what's working for you, what's not working for you, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and we'll help you come up with a game plan. We'll say, okay, well, over the next 12 months, here's what I would do, and here's the results you can expect if you do this, this, and this each day. And then at the very, very end of that call, if you're interested in learning more about coaching, just let us know. We'll tell you. If not, no harm, no foul. Happy to have brought value to your world, and please spread the word and tell people we helped you out.
Love it. Love it. So appreciate you for joining us today at School of Real Estate Success, where we bring top coaches and trainers on to share and to talk about how real estate agents can grow their real estate business. So, Michael, we want to just acknowledge you before we get off the call. I believe that you guys are doing an awesome job over there. You and I, this is our second live event that we've worked together on, and I hope and, look forward to us doing many, many more of these type of events together. So appreciate you for joining us today.
Awesome. Hey, thanks a lot, Mo. I appreciate you having me, man.
No problem. Guys, we'll talk to you next time, and we hope that you enjoyed another edition of Real Estate Success. Talk to you later.